Welcome to the podcast. We have a stacked lineup today. Apple's lawsuit with OpenAI over their trade secrets is heating up, especially as there's an IPO coming this year. So we're going to talk about what some of the negative repercussions on OpenAI are. And all of this is happening as Apple has just passed Nvidia as the most valuable company in the world, unseating them. Moonshot's Kimi K3 is looking to match OpenAI's Opus 4.8. Their valuation has hit $31.5 billion. And New York City's Hochul, their governor, used AI to review every single rule in state law, but still decided to ban data centers. Google has renamed Notebook LM to Gemini Notebook and is adding code execution. And at the same time, an ex-DeepMind researcher has just raised $55 million at a $300 million valuation for a visual AI startup called Exlorian. Databricks also landed funding at a $188 billion valuation. We're getting into all of that on the podcast today. First, I wanted to tell you about the most exciting feature I have added to AI Box, which is an MCP, basically a connection that allows Claude or any other AI tool to get all the other AI tools inside of it. Particularly exciting for me is that I've added image generation inside of Claude. You can also do audio and video, but image is what I'm really excited about. I've spent the entire day making a Facebook ad campaign, and every single ad I created with this tool was using the AI Box MCP. Essentially, what you do is when you're using Claude, all you have to do is say, generate an image of XYZ. You can put the regular prompt you'd put into ChatGPT or something else, and just say, use AI Box. Or it really just understands that that's a tool that can generate images. So you could just say, generate an image of XYZ. Claude will go use your AI Box account, generate the image, pull it in, and open it right there in your Claude desktop so you can see the image inside of Claude. It feels magical, I'm not gonna lie. And the thing that I love about it is that it can do multiple images simultaneously. So I'm like, I work with Claude to come up with like a template of an image that I like for the ad, but it needs, images and little graphics inside of the ad. So I work on that, and then I'm like, perfect, this looks great. Now make 20 different variations of this, change the title and headline and change these graphics. Go use AI Box for all of that. So it uses AI Box to generate all of the little images and graphics and pulls them into its template it made, and it spits out 20 of them. And it does it in like a few seconds because it can do simultaneous image generation on AI Box. That is what I'm super excited about. If you want to try it out, it is aibox.ai/MCP. Okay, let's talk about the lawsuit between Apple and OpenAI. I think a lot of people are talking about this right now, particularly because the story broke that Apple has passed Nvidia to claim the world's most valuable company title. So now we have the biggest company in the world coming against OpenAI, which is looking to IPO soon. Apple hit a $4.88 trillion market value on Friday. And the reason for this isn't just Apple growing, but also Nvidia falling. Nvidia went down 3%, which basically ended their run as the top in the entire market, which they've been sitting there for quite some time. Apple's valuation, while it hit that, it surpassed Nvidia's valuation of $4.8 trillion. Nvidia shares fell, like I said. Apple's up 22% this year, and Nvidia has gained about 7%. It's interesting because we're seeing, Nvidia that had such a good run for so long, and we're shifting out of that being the hottest segment, and a lot of Wall Street has rotated towards memory and infrastructure. Companies like Micron Technologies and SanDisk are becoming really popular, and so it feels like maybe Nvidia isn't just the hottest, sexiest company. Now, while this is happening, Apple's doing incredibly well in the stock market, and their lawsuit of OpenAI is pushing forward. They are alleging that OpenAI hired over 400 former Apple employees, and they misused trade secrets through their chief hardware officer. And of course, with the IPO that's coming up, this is something that OpenAI obviously doesn't want to have, tarnishing their name. Apple named OpenAI's chief hardware officer in this whole complaint, and this is all happening at the same time that OpenAI has released their first piece of hardware. It is a $230 keyboard for Codex, their coding tool, which I have purchased, by the way, so I'll give you guys a review when that comes in the mail. I'm actually really excited about that. Was it a spur of the moment purchase? Yeah, I actually saw the news drop that this thing was available, and I was covering it on the AI Hustle podcast, and like mid-podcast, Jamie starts talking, and I'm like, okay, I gotta buy this keyboard because it said while supplies lasted. I knew the supplies were not gonna last, so I went and purchased it. Side note, OpenAI also released a basketball that they're selling, and it just looks like a weird gradient color basketball with the OpenAI logo on it. That also said supplies last. I saw this, and that came out, I guess, a few hours ago. I went and looked, and that was already sold out. So the basketball and the keyboard are sold out, but it looks like OpenAI is making these physical products, which is kind of funny. Will this save them from their IPO woes? I don't think so. But it's going to be interesting because that was their first piece of hardware that they're releasing, and they're working with the former Apple iPhone designer Johnny Ive to come up with a new undisclosed piece of hardware. Some people say it's basically like a smart speaker on your computer. In any case, I've looked over a lot of the accusations Apple's made. It looks pretty bad. Basically, they brought over a new chief of hardware, and he came from Apple, and they gutted the entire design team of Apple. They hired like 400 people from the design team of Apple. He used to be over there at Apple, so he knew everyone. He pulled them in, and when he pulled them in, Apple's allegation is that he told all of them as they were coming to OpenAI, this is how you get around all of the, basically when you quit Apple, how you get around all of the, retaining all the information. So bring little components, give us the secret words, tell us what's going on at Apple. And in some case, they said that one of the employees kept like a laptop and used some like VPN loophole to keep access to some data at Apple. That's kind of Apple's lawsuit in any case. I mean, it's an important lesson though, when your employees leave, everything in their head also leaves with them. So what type of confidential information do they move over? That's what the lawsuit is going to be covering. Moonshot's Kimi 3 is looking to beat Anthropic right now, and on one important benchmark, which is a front-end developer benchmark, it is ahead of Fable 5 even. So it's really doing well. It's a 2 to 3 trillion parameter open weight model, and with all of this, it's coming from a Chinese lab, and the Chinese lab's valuation, Moonshot, jumped to $31.5 billion in 2 months as they're coming out with this model, and it's beating even Anthropic on a bunch of different benchmarks. This is the largest open weight model that has ever been released from China. They raised $2 billion at a $20 billion valuation back in May, and now they're valued at $31 billion. So their valuation's increasing, their model's getting really good. This is all, coming at a time with Anthropic, they're getting kind of held back by the government. It feels like we're getting a lot of regulation, these 30-day kind of hold back periods where the government can go and review the models before they release them to the public. None of that is happening in China, and they're releasing all these models open weight so people can actually get them and fine tune their own models on them. A lot of enterprise buyers prefer this because if you can grab something like Kimi K3, put it on your own hardware, it's not tied to China, it's not tied to Moonshot, they don't see into anything that you're doing. You fine tune your own stuff on this system, and then you can basically access it for quote unquote free, but you're using it with all on your own hardware. Now, some people are like, hey, don't use the Chinese models. I think maybe the play for the Chinese models are basically release a bunch of these open weight models, get people fine tuning on top of them. So they're kind of embedded in your ecosystem basically. And then you could probably release better models that maybe are paid, or you could just say, hey, look, if you don't want to run it on your own hardware, you can also run it on our data, on our like servers and stuff, which is a popular strategy. Right now, we have New York's Governor Kathy Hochul. She said that she used AI to review every state rule, regulation, and policy in the last couple months. And she said that the work they were able to do in reviewing all of this in the last couple months, she said it would have taken the staff 5 years if they didn't have AI. This, in my opinion, is showing a massive gap right now. New York is using AI to streamline, and particularly Kathy is using AI to streamline the government, and she's doing all of this while at the exact same time she put a 1-year ban on new data center buildouts inside of their state. So she's using the AI, but she's banning it. It feels like all of the people that fly on private jets to environmental conferences and burn a billion pounds of fuel and then tell everyone not to drive their car because it uses too much fuel. So that's kind of what it feels like to me. She said with what she was able to do with the AI though in reviewing all the laws, which by the way, phenomenal. So I'm not bagging on everything. I think that's amazing if she can use the AI to streamline all of the laws. She said she found a bunch of outdated laws. One of them was a $25 dog hunting fee. If you wanted to go hunting with your dog, you had to pay a $25 fee. Apparently there was a fee for pregnant workers. They had to go get a permit if they wanted to work after midnight. There's just like all these random laws and regulations. And this just kind of happens when a state has been around for so long and all these regulations get added. No one ever goes and takes the regulations away. So I'm all for deregulating, and I think they did, a great job. They found a bunch of things. Hochschild didn't say what AI model they used for all of the reviews, and they didn't say what their methodology was for doing all this. But overall, she said that this was a huge productivity jump. She said it's 30x productivity jump on what she was able to do. So she gets some points for looking like the cool governor for using AI to streamline. And honestly, I hope every state does that. So good on her for that. Bad on her for banning data centers for a year, although it doesn't really matter because every other state will get them instead, I guess. Okay. Google has renamed Notebook LM to Gemini Notebook. I mean, it makes sense. They're trying to keep with the branding. Google loves changing the name and changing the products and killing the products of everything. I'm just happy that Notebook LM is still alive. They've added code execution to it. It's funny because they just basically had a runaway product that was random. They've released tons of products. Notebook LM just caught fire for some reason. I think a lot of students just would throw their textbooks into it and have it do a podcast talking back to them. They liked that. But in any case, it can now do code execution. It has a secured cloud computer that can write code against your own documents for data analysis. The app has 30 million users, 600,000 organizations are using Notebook LM. Honestly, it blows my mind. I mean, I've played with it, I've used it. I know people that religiously use it. It's not part of my go-to, but it blows my mind that they have 30 million users, and now it's called Gemini Notebook. So they're just giving Gemini a better name and a little bit of a good PR boost with this popular tool. The code execution is live today, so you can go use that for Google AI Ultra subscribers and for Workspace customers. It's rolling out to all pro users over the coming weeks. Notebooks will now sync with the main Gemini app, which honestly, I'm all for that. I hate it when there's all of these different tools and they're not connected, especially when it's from the same company. Google really should have everything connected. So I think that that's great. It's going to appear inside of Google's search AI mode and basically let you pull answers from your own documents instead of just the web, which is really cool, right? If you have a whole bunch of documents on your Google Drive and you want to, and you go in and searching in the search bar on Google and all of a sudden it gives you answers from that, that could be a really useful bit of context. The app started as a project at Google I/O back in 2023, and now it has grown. It got really famous and viral from TikTok. Okay, all of this is at the same time that Andrew Day, a former Google DeepMind researcher, raised $55 million for Alorian at a $30 million valuation. He did all of this before the startup shipped anything. Dai is basically betting that visual reasoning, teaching AI to understand images and video the way the current systematic text handles, is the next frontier. And he basically turned down a whole bunch of really high offers to take strategic investors like Nvidia, who understand how expensive AI research actually is. So Nvidia is one of his investors, a bunch of other people who got turned down. Dai spent over a decade at DeepMind on foundational work that all later influenced ChatGPT. Alorian's valuation to capital ratio is way more aggressive than even thinking machines from a former co-founder of OpenAI, which was one of the largest seed rounds in US history. Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic are all working on multimodal understanding, which is a recent Stanford benchmark. And that benchmark in particular showed that frontier vision models are still lagging, and they're worse than a toddler on basic visual reasoning tasks. So he's trying to crack the code, and we'll see if that is possible. Databricks has landed funding at a $188 billion valuation. They just closed this funding round. They made it basically in the same league as OpenAI and Anthropic on paper anyways. The data and AI platform company, they're not just building AI models, they're also selling a lot of the infrastructure that companies use to train, deploy, and run models in production. Databricks right now is competing with Snowflake, if you've heard of the company, on data warehousing. And they're also competing a bunch of other big players on modeling serving. They're also strengthening their acquisition. They acquired Mosaic ML, which I covered on the podcast back in 2023. I don't know why, it's kind of funny. That particular episode I covered from the San Francisco airport, which is funny to me. But anyways, the company has basically not done an IPO. So they're not publicly listed. They've just done these private funding rounds. It's kind of wild that we have these massive AI companies that are doing that right now. At this new valuation, they're now valued higher than most established enterprise software companies, and I think basically they pushed the bar for what it takes to go public, because at $188 billion, you would have expected this type of company to go public in the past. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcast. And as always, make sure to go check out AIbox.ai if you want to get access to over 80 different AI models and the MCP. So you can pull all of those AI models into Claude. You can get Claude to generate images, audio, video. It will save you so much time. It's amazing. It's a buttery smooth experience that I've been doing all week long, and I love it. So if you want to check it out, AIbox.ai/MCP. All right, I'll catch you guys all in the next episode.